I worked in military and when I was away. Brother slept with my wife and got her pregnant. But now she is gone, and my parents demand I reconcile. So I did this instead. And now they are shocked. Sup, Reddit. Never thought I'd be posting one of these, but here we are. My brother slept with my wife while I was deployed, got her pregnant, and my parents want me to forgive him because family is forever. I had other plans. Buckle up because this gets messy. I'm 32 male, a logistics coordinator for the Army. Been in for 12 years now, started as enlisted and worked my way up through the ranks. Not the guy kicking down doors or jumping out of helicopters. I'm the one making sure those guys have ammunition, food, and equipment when they need it. Unglamorous work that keeps people alive? Met my ex-wife Amanda back in 2015 at a friend's cookout in San Antonio. She was working as a dental hygienist, seemed sweet and supportive of military life. We dated for a year, got married at the courthouse because I was shipping out for a 9-month deployment to Kuwait, and wanted to make sure she'd be taken care of if something happened to me. The deployment wasn't combat intensive, mostly coordinating supply chains across 3 forward operating bases, long hours in climate-controlled warehouses, making sure convoys left on schedule. Boring work punctuated by moments of absolute chaos when something went wrong. Amanda seemed fine with the deployment life at first. We'd video chat twice a week when bandwidth allowed. She'd send care packages with snacks and letters, and everything seemed solid. She talked about her work, complained about her boss, showed me pictures of dinners with friends. Normal military spouse stuff. My younger brother Jason is 29 and works construction when he feels like it. Guy bounces between jobs every few months, always has some excuse about why the foreman was incompetent or the crew didn't respect his skills. Lives in a studio apartment our parents help subsidize because he can't maintain steady employment. Growing up, Jason was the fun one. The charming kid who could talk his way out of trouble, make friends instantly, and always had some scheme going. I was the responsible, boring brother who did homework, followed rules, and joined ROTC in high school because I knew I wasn't getting scholarships for athletics or charm. Our parents, Donald and Patricia, run a small accounting firm in Austin. Standard middle-class upbringing, house in the suburbs, family vacations to national parks, college savings accounts that actually existed. They're good people who worked hard and provided stable childhoods, but they've always had a massive blind spot when it comes to Jason. When Jason got fired from his 3rd construction job in 2 years, Dad helped him get another position through a client connection. When Jason wrecked his truck driving without insurance, Mom co-signed on a new vehicle loan. When Jason needed rent money, they'd cover it while lecturing me about being more understanding of his creative spirit. I was overseas making sure soldiers didn't run out of supplies while getting shot at, and they were subsidizing Jason's lifestyle because he couldn't show up to job sites on time. The favoritism wasn't malicious. They genuinely believed Jason needed more support because I was naturally responsible and always figured things out. Like being reliable was some supernatural gift instead of conscious choice and effort. Still, they were my parents. I called every week when I could, sent them care packages of weird stuff from overseas, and tried to maintain that connection despite being 7,000 miles away in a desert. Amanda and Jason knew each other from family gatherings. She'd met him at our wedding, small ceremony with immediate family only before I deployed. They'd talked at Thanksgiving dinners and my parents' anniversary party. Normal in-law interactions. I trusted both of them completely. That was my first mistake. The first hint something was wrong came 6 months into my deployment. Amanda's video chat schedule started getting inconsistent. She'd miss our scheduled calls, then text hours later with apologies about being tired or having to work late. When we did connect, she seemed distracted, looking off camera frequently, and keeping conversations surface level. I figured she was just struggling with the deployment. 7 months apart is hard on relationships, especially when one person is dealing with military life stress while the other is home alone. I tried to be understanding, sending more messages and care packages to show I was thinking about her. Then the photos stopped. Amanda used to send pictures constantly. Selfies from work, shots of dinners she'd cooked, random stuff she found funny. Suddenly, nothing. When I mentioned it during a video call, she got defensive about not wanting to bother me with trivial stuff while I was busy with important work. My buddy Kevin, who worked supply logistics with me, noticed I was off one day while we were processing equipment requisitions. Kevin's been married for 8 years and had done multiple deployments. Guy understood deployment stress better than most. "Everything good at home?" he asked during a break outside the warehouse. "Amanda's been weird lately," I admitted. "Distant, missing calls, acting strange when we do talk." Kevin's expression shifted to something I couldn't quite read. "Weird how?" I explained the pattern. Missed calls, shorter conversations, defensive attitude. Kevin listened quietly, then asked if I had any reason to suspect something specific. Like what? Like she's seeing someone else. The suggestion hit wrong. Amanda wouldn't do that. She knew what deployment life was like, knew I was working 16-hour days in a desert trying to keep supply chains running. She'd promised to wait, to be there when I got back. But Kevin's question planted a seed of doubt that started growing. I started paying more attention during our calls. The way she angled her phone to show less of the apartment. How she'd mentioned Jason helping her fix the kitchen sink, then later said she'd called a plumber. Small inconsistencies that individually meant nothing, but together formed a pattern. Month 7 brought the real evidence. Amanda posted a photo on social media, first one in weeks. She was at some restaurant with friends, smiling at the camera, looking genuinely happy in a way I hadn't seen during our recent video calls. Normal enough, except in the background you could clearly see Jason sitting at another table. Wouldn't have been suspicious except for one detail. The timestamp showed it was posted at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. The same Tuesday she'd canceled our scheduled video call because she had to work late. I stared at that photo for an hour, zooming in to confirm it was definitely Jason, checking the timestamp multiple times, trying to find some innocent explanation. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe they'd run into each other randomly. Maybe I was reading too much into nothing. Kevin found me that night sitting outside the warehouse at 2 a.m., still staring at my phone. "You should call her," he said quietly. "Clear the air. Ask direct questions. What if I'm wrong? Then you apologize and work through it. But man, if you're right and you don't ask, that's worse." I called Amanda the next morning during her lunch break, asked about her week, how work was going, what she'd been up to. She gave vague answers about being busy and tired. Then I mentioned seeing Jason in the background of her restaurant photo. The silence lasted maybe 5 seconds. Felt like an hour. "Oh yeah, he was there with some friends. Small world, right? You didn't mention running into him. Didn't seem important. We just waved hi." The lie was obvious. In the photo, Jason was sitting at a table with empty chairs, clearly alone, looking directly at whoever was taking the picture of Amanda's group. Not someone who'd randomly been at the same restaurant with different friends. I didn't call her out directly, just said I missed her and was looking forward to coming home in 2 months. She agreed quickly, too quickly, and ended the call saying she had a patient waiting. That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I logged into our shared phone account, the family plan I'd set up before deploying so she could reach me easier, and checked her call logs. Pages and pages of calls to Jason's number, multiple times per day. Calls lasting 20, 30, 40 minutes, starting about 4 months into my deployment and increasing in frequency ever since. The texts were worse. The phone company didn't store message content, but the metadata showed hundreds of texts between them. Late-night exchanges at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., when I was working logistics coordination and she was supposedly asleep. I sat in my bunk that night staring at spreadsheets of call logs, feeling something inside me break and reform into something colder, harder. Kevin found me the next morning looking like I hadn't slept. "I need to handle some personal business when I get back," I told him. "Can you cover for me if I need a few days?" He nodded. "Whatever you need, man." The last 6 weeks of deployment were the longest of my life. I maintained professional standards at work, processed requisitions, and coordinated shipments like nothing was wrong. But every free moment was spent planning. I didn't confront Amanda, didn't call Jason, didn't tell my parents. Just watched and documented everything I could access legally through our shared accounts. More restaurant check-ins at places they'd told me separately they were at with other people. Photos posted by mutual friends showing them at the same gatherings when Amanda had told me she was homesick. Credit card statements showing purchases at stores near Jason's apartment. By the time my deployment ended, I had a complete timeline of their relationship. It had started 4 months in, right around when Amanda started acting distant. Every missed call, every canceled video chat, every lie, it all fit perfectly into the pattern. I landed at Fort Hood on a Wednesday afternoon in August. Amanda was supposed to pick me up, but I'd told her my flight was delayed and I'd grab a ride. Wanted time to think before facing her. Kevin dropped me at my apartment complex around 6 p.m. The place looked the same. Standard military housing with cheap vinyl siding and a parking lot full of mid-range sedans. My truck was parked in its usual spot, covered in dust from sitting unused for 9 months. I stood in that parking lot with my deployment bag, staring at the apartment where my wife was probably inside, and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, just cold calculation. Keyed into the apartment quietly. Heard the TV on in the living room, some reality show Amanda liked. She was on the couch in sweatpants and one of my old army shirts, scrolling through her phone. "Hey," I said from the doorway. She jumped about a foot, phone flying out of her hand. "Oh my God! I thought you weren't coming until tomorrow." "Flight got in early. Wanted to surprise you." Amanda scrambled to her feet, suddenly nervous. "You should have called. I would have cleaned up, made dinner, something special." The apartment was spotless, cleaner than it had been when I left, like she'd been preparing for something. We hugged. It felt like hugging a stranger. She asked about the flight, about Kuwait, about whether I was tired or hungry. Small talk from someone who didn't know what else to say. I played along, told her deployment was fine, I was exhausted, maybe we could just order food and relax tonight. She agreed quickly, already pulling out her phone to browse restaurant options. While she ordered, I walked through the apartment doing a casual inspection. Everything looked normal except for one detail. There were no photos of us anywhere. The wedding picture that used to be on the bookshelf was gone. The deployment photos I'd sent were missing from the fridge. In the bedroom, I found them, shoved in the back of the closet in a cardboard box, like she'd been trying to erase evidence of our marriage. Also in the closet, a men's jacket that wasn't mine. Size large, construction company logo on the back, smelling like cheap body spray Jason wore. I stood there holding that jacket, feeling that cold hardness inside me solidify into pure ice. Amanda called from the living room that food would be here in 30 minutes. I put the jacket back exactly where I found it and rejoined her on the couch. We ate takeout and watched TV like a normal couple. She asked questions about deployment. I gave vague answers. She talked about work, about her boss finally retiring, about some drama with her coworkers. Normal conversation that revealed nothing. That night, she suggested I sleep on the couch since I was probably still adjusting to time zones and she didn't want to disturb my rest. Thoughtful suggestion from a caring wife, except we'd always shared a bed even when I was jet-lagged. I agreed and settled on the couch with a pillow and blanket. Lay there in the dark, listening to her move around the bedroom, hearing her phone buzz repeatedly with texts she didn't answer while I was awake. Around 2 a.m., I checked our shared phone account again. 7 texts from Jason in the last hour, all after I'd supposedly gone to sleep. I didn't open them or try to read content, just noted the pattern and added it to my mental file. The next morning, Amanda was overly cheerful at breakfast, asking about my plans, whether I'd be going to base, when I'd see my parents. Casual questions that felt like intelligence gathering. "I should probably visit Mom and Dad this weekend," I said. "Let them know I'm back safe." Relief washed over her face, so obviously she might as well have worn a sign saying, "Please leave so I can do something without you here." That's a great idea. I'm sure they've missed you. I've got some errands to run anyway, so that works out perfectly. We both smiled and lied to each other about our plans. I spent that day on base processing my return paperwork and checking in with my unit. Standard post-deployment administrative stuff that took hours of sitting in offices while clerks processed forms. Used the time to make some calls. First call was to a lawyer I'd researched during my last weeks overseas. Family law specialist in Austin with good reviews and military experience. Made an appointment for Monday morning. Second call was to a buddy from basic training who'd gotten out and now worked in construction. Different company than Jason. But they knew each other through the local contractors network. Asked him to keep his ears open about my brother, specifically any gossip about who he was seeing. Third call was to my bank. Changed all my account passwords, set up a new individual account, and scheduled a transfer of funds from our joint account to my personal one. Left exactly half the balance. Fair was fair, even if she wasn't. By the time I got home that afternoon, Amanda was gone. Text message said she decided to visit her parents for the weekend. Give me time to adjust and see my family. Wouldn't be back until Sunday night. Perfect. I spent Friday evening going through every inch of our apartment. Not looking for evidence of the affair. I already knew about that. But documenting our shared assets. Furniture we'd bought together. Electronics. Household items. Took photos of everything. Made detailed lists. Checked receipts in the filing cabinet. Also found Amanda's laptop in the bedroom, conveniently left behind. Logged in using the password I knew she used for everything, and started copying files to an external drive. Email backups, photo libraries, documents. If there was evidence of the affair in there, I wanted copies before any divorce proceedings started. The laptop revealed more than I expected. Emails to Jason going back 5 months. Not explicitly romantic at first, just friendly chatter that got progressively more intimate. Inside jokes, plans to meet up, complaints about their respective situations. Her lonely with her husband deployed, him struggling with another failed job. Then around month 5, the tone shifted. emails about missing each other, discussions about feelings they shouldn't have, messages about how complicated everything was. By month 6, they'd stopped pretending. Messages explicitly discussing their physical relationship. Plans to meet at his apartment when I wouldn't be calling. Discussions about whether to tell me or wait until after my deployment. The worst email was from 3 weeks ago. Jason asking what she wanted to do about the situation and whether she'd figured out how to handle things. Amanda's response, I don't know yet. I need time to think. Everything's complicated with him coming home soon. No mention of guilt. No discussion of ending the affair. Just logistics about how to handle an inconvenient husband returning from deployment. I copied everything to 3 separate external drives, encrypted them, stored 2 in my truck's lockbox and 1 in my deployment bag. Then I went through her photo library. Hundreds of pictures of her and Jason, at restaurants, at his apartment, at parks and bars. Selfies where they looked like a couple. Photos of them together that she'd clearly been hiding from social media. And then I found the ultrasound photo, dated 6 weeks ago. Clear as day. Baby Phillips, 12 weeks, printed at the top. She was 4 months pregnant, with my brother's kid, while I was overseas making sure soldiers had equipment and supplies. I stared at that ultrasound image for a long time, feeling that cold hardness inside me become absolute zero. She was pregnant. They'd made a baby, and neither of them had told me. I closed the laptop, put it back exactly where I'd found it, and spent the next hour sitting in the dark doing math. 4 months pregnant meant conception happened 5 months into my deployment, right when the affair started heating up. She would have known for at least 6 weeks, probably longer, had multiple opportunities to tell me during our video calls. Instead, she'd hidden it, kept up the charade, let me come home thinking everything was fine while she figured out how to handle the situation. That night, I started packing. Not everything, just my personal stuff. Clothes, gear, some electronics, important documents. Loaded it all into my truck under cover of darkness. Left the furniture, the household stuff, all the shared items. Just took what was definitively mine. By Saturday morning, my truck was packed and I was ready. Made one more call to my parents, asking if I could stop by that evening to talk. They were thrilled. Hadn't seen me since before deployment. Mom said she'd make dinner. Spent Saturday afternoon at a storage unit facility, loading all my stuff into a climate-controlled space I'd rented under my name only. Then drove to Austin. My parents' house looked exactly the same. Standard suburban 2-story with a manicured lawn and flower beds Mom obsessed over. Dad's expensive grill on the back patio. Jason's truck in the driveway. Of course Jason was there. Where else would he be on a Saturday evening except getting free dinner from Mom? They all came out to greet me when I pulled up. Mom crying, Dad trying to maintain composure but clearly emotional, Jason hanging back looking uncomfortable. You should have told us you were coming today, Mom said, hugging me hard enough to crack ribs. We would have made something special. This is special enough, I said, hugging her back. Dad shook my hand, then pulled me in for one of those awkward guy hugs. Good to have you home safe, son. Jason nodded at me from the porch. Hey, man. Good to see you. Yeah, you too. We went inside. Mom had made pot roast, my favorite. The dining room table was set with the good dishes she only used for special occasions. Everything was perfect and normal and completely fake. Dinner was tense despite Mom's attempts at cheerful conversation. She asked about Kuwait, about the deployment, about whether I'd seen combat. Dad wanted to know about career plans and whether I'd be staying at Fort Hood or getting new orders. Jason mostly stayed quiet, pushing food around his plate and avoiding eye contact. About halfway through dinner, Mom asked the question I'd been waiting for. Where's Amanda? I thought she'd come with you. She's visiting her parents this weekend, I said. Wanted to give me time to adjust and see you guys first. Mom beamed. That's so thoughtful of her. She's such a good wife. You're lucky to have someone so understanding. I just nodded and took another bite of pot roast. After dinner, Dad suggested we have coffee on the back patio. The 3 of us men, like old times. Mom started clearing dishes while we headed outside. The evening was warm. Cicadas making noise in the trees. Neighbors' kids playing in yards down the street. Normal Texas summer night. Dad poured coffee from the thermos Mom had sent out, and we sat in lawn chairs, watching the sun go down. So, Dad said eventually, you planning to make the Army a career? Or thinking about transitioning to civilian life? Haven't decided yet. Got some things to figure out first. Jason lit a smoke, hand shaking slightly. Must be weird being back after 9 months. You get used to it. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a few minutes. I let it stretch, watching them both squirm. Finally, I decided to drop the first bomb. Actually, there's something I wanted to talk to both of you about. Dad looked up, interested. Jason went very still. I'm filing for divorce. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Mom, who'd just come outside with more coffee, dropped the thermos. It hit the patio concrete and shattered, hot liquid everywhere. What? Dad's voice was sharp. What are you talking about? Amanda and I are getting divorced. I'm filing papers on Monday. Why? Mom's voice cracked. What happened? Did you two have a fight? No fight. She's been having an affair. Jason's smoke fell out of his hand. An affair? Dad looked genuinely shocked. Are you sure? Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. I have proof. Emails, texts, photos, call logs going back 5 months. She's been seeing someone since month 4 of my deployment. Mom sank into a chair, hand over her mouth. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That's horrible. Who is it? Anyone we know? I looked directly at Jason. Yeah, you know him pretty well. The color drained from Jason's face. Dad followed my gaze, then looked back at me confused. What are you saying? I'm saying Amanda's been sleeping with Jason since January, and she's 4 months pregnant with his kid. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the cicadas seemed to stop. Mom made a choking sound. Dad just stared at Jason like he'd never seen him before. Jason tried to speak. Couldn't get words out. Tried again. We didn't. It's not what? I asked calmly. Not an affair? Not your baby? Not something you should have mentioned while I was overseas? I'm sorry. Jason finally managed. I'm so sorry. It just happened. We didn't mean for it to... Didn't mean for it to what? Happen repeatedly over 5 months? Result in pregnancy? Continue right up until the day I came home? Dad found his voice. Jason, is this true? Jason nodded, looking at the ground. You slept with your brother's wife while he was deployed? Another nod. Dad stood up so fast his chair fell over. For a moment, I thought he might hit Jason. Instead, he just stood there, shaking with rage. Get out, Dad said quietly. Dad, please, just let me explain. Get out of my house! I'd never heard my father yell like that. Jason scrambled to his feet and ran inside. We heard the front door slam a minute later, his truck starting and peeling out of the driveway. Mom was crying quietly. Dad picked up his chair and sat down heavily, suddenly looking 10 years older. I don't know what to say, he said finally. I'm sorry doesn't even begin to cover it. I know. What do you need from us? That was the question I'd been waiting for. I need you to not ask me to forgive him. I need you to not tell me family is more important than this. I need you to not make excuses for him, or try to fix this. Dad nodded. Done. He's dead to me unless you say otherwise. Mom looked up, tears streaming down her face. But he's still my son, and I'm still yours too, I said. Which one of us are you choosing? She opened her mouth, closed it, then started crying harder. I stood up to leave. Let me know which one you decide on. Monday morning, I met with the lawyer. Her name was Sandra Hayes, mid-50s with silver hair and an expression that said she'd seen every kind of family disaster imaginable. I laid everything out. The deployment, the affair, the pregnancy, the evidence I'd gathered. She took notes and asked clarifying questions. This is pretty straightforward, she said when I finished. No-fault divorce in Texas is simple, especially with documented infidelity. The pregnancy complicates custody issues, but since it's not your biological child, you won't have any support obligations. How long will it take? With your evidence and the circumstances. Maybe 90 days if she doesn't contest. Could be longer if she fights it. She'll fight it. Her family has money and she won't want to look bad. Sandra nodded. Then we prepare for contested divorce. Document everything, maintain separate finances, establish separate residence if possible. I'd already done 2 of those 3 things. Just needed to make the residence separation official. That afternoon, I went back to the apartment. Amanda was home from her parents' visit, sitting on the couch looking nervous. We need to talk, I said. Okay. I sat in the armchair across from her. I know about Jason. I know about the baby. I know everything. She went pale. I can explain. I don't want explanations. I want a divorce. Please, just listen. No. You had 9 months to tell me the truth. You chose to lie every single day. There's nothing to discuss. Amanda started crying. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We didn't plan it. Things just got complicated. Things got complicated when you decided to sleep with my brother. Now they're getting simple again. I'm moving out, filing papers tomorrow, and we're going to split everything fairly. You can't just leave. We can work through this. People make mistakes. Mistakes are accidents. This was a choice you made repeatedly for 5 months. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. I stood up to leave. Amanda followed me, grabbing my arm. What about Jason? Are you just going to abandon him too? Jason made his choice. Now he gets to live with it. Same as you. Your parents won't let you do this. Family is too important to them. Then they can have Jason as their favorite child without me getting in the way. I pulled my arm free and walked out. She called after me, but I didn't look back. That night, I checked into a motel near base. Basic room with a bed and a TV, but it was mine, and nobody there had betrayed me. Felt better than the apartment I'd been paying for, while my wife and brother used it for their affair. The next day, Sandra filed divorce papers. Amanda would be served at work, professional, public, and humiliating enough to make a point. I spent the rest of the week getting my life in order. Established direct deposit to my new bank account. Notified my command about the divorce so housing allowances could be adjusted. Started looking at apartments near base. My phone blew up with messages. Amanda begging to talk. Jason apologizing repeatedly. Mom asking me to reconsider. Dad asking what I needed. I responded to Dad only, I need time and space. Tell everyone else to stop contacting me. He replied immediately, understood. Your mother and I support you completely. That was something, at least. 2 weeks after filing, I got a call from an unknown Austin number. Answered thinking it might be related to the divorce. Is this military? Who's asking? This is Heather. I'm Jason's landlord. Your dad gave me this number. Said you might want to know your brother abandoned his apartment and stuck me with $2,400 in unpaid rent. Interesting development. When did he leave? 3 days ago. Cleared out overnight. Left the place trashed. I'm trying to track him down for what he owes. What makes you think I can help? Your dad said you might be interested in knowing where Jason went. Said there was some family situation. There is, but I don't know where he went and don't particularly care. Heather sighed. Look, between you and me, your brother's been trouble since he moved in. Late rent, noise complaints, weird hours. I'm not surprised he bolted. Just figured family might want to know. After I hung up, I called Dad. Why did Jason's landlord just call me? Because he ran. Packed up and left town 3 days ago. Didn't tell us where he was going. Good riddance. Your mother's worried about him. That's her choice. Dad was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, I told him not to come around anymore. Told him until you say otherwise. He's not welcome in our home. Thanks. Also told your mother she needs to choose between supporting you or supporting him. Can't do both. And she's struggling with it. But she'll come around. Give her time. Time. Everyone wanted more time. As if waiting would somehow make this better. The divorce proceeded exactly as Sandra predicted. Amanda contested, claiming the marriage could be saved through counseling. Her lawyer argued that deployment stress and isolation had caused temporary problems that didn't warrant divorce. My lawyer submitted the evidence. Emails, call logs, photos, the ultrasound picture, medical records proving the pregnancy timeline, documentation of Jason's jacket in our closet. Everything laid out in clinical detail. Amanda's lawyer went quiet after that. They tried shifting to financial arguments, splitting assets, claiming spousal support, arguing about debt allocation. I didn't fight on assets. Told Sandra to offer Amanda everything in the apartment except my personal items and my truck. She could have the furniture, the dishes, the TV, all of it. I just wanted out. You're being too generous, Sandra warned. She cheated on you. You don't owe her anything. I know. But dragging this out costs time and money I don't want to spend. Give her the stuff, and let's be done. The gesture actually worked in my favor. The judge saw me being reasonable and accommodating while Amanda fought for every asset. Made her look petty and vindictive. 3 months after filing, the divorce was finalized. I got my freedom, she got the apartment contents, and her guilt. Fair trade as far as I was concerned. My parents called to check in regularly. Dad remained solid. Clear boundaries with Jason, full support for me. Mom struggled, but eventually came around after Dad apparently had some serious conversations with her about enabling Jason his entire life. I failed you, she told me during one emotional phone call. I spent so long protecting Jason that I forgot you needed support too. I'm fine, Mom. No, you're not. You're hurt and angry and you have every right to be. But I want you to know I'm choosing to support you. Jason made his choices. He has to live with consequences now. Where is he? We don't know. He calls occasionally asking for money. Your father refuses. He said something about Colorado last time, but he might have been lying. Jason had run away. Typical. When things got hard, he disappeared and left other people to clean up his mess. 6 months after the divorce, I got unexpected news from Kevin. We were in the warehouse processing equipment returns when he pulled me aside looking uncomfortable. Man, I need to tell you something. Not sure how you'll take it. Just say it. Amanda had the baby. Girl. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Born last Tuesday. I felt nothing. Okay. You okay? Fine. She's Jason's problem now, not mine. Kevin nodded slowly. There's more. Apparently Jason came back for the birth. Stayed in town for 2 days, then disappeared again. Didn't put his name on the birth certificate. Amanda's losing it because he won't commit to anything. Karma was poetry sometimes. Not my circus, not my monkeys. Fair enough. Just thought you should know. Life moved on. I got promoted to a better position coordinating supply operations across multiple bases. Better pay, better hours, better everything. Started dating a civilian contractor who worked in procurement. Smart woman named Beth, who actually understood military life and didn't play games. My parents flew out to visit on my birthday. We had dinner at a steakhouse near base, talked about their business, about my work, about normal family stuff. They didn't mention Jason once. That night over dessert, Dad pulled out an envelope. This is from your mother and me. Savings bonds we bought when you boys were kids. Your grandmother insisted we get them for both of you. I opened it. $25,000 in matured bonds originally purchased in my name. Jason got the same amount, Mom said quietly. He cashed his out last year to pay debts. We held on to yours because we wanted to give them to you directly. Thank you. There's more, Dad continued. We're updating our will. Everything's being left to you now. Jason's inheritance is going to his daughter's college fund, managed by a trust he can't access. I looked at them both. You don't have to do this. Yes, we do, Mom said firmly. We enabled his behavior for too long. Let him think actions didn't have consequences. He hurt you in the worst possible way, and he needs to understand that has permanent repercussions. 3 weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. This is Amanda. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need help. Jason's gone again, and I can't afford daycare and rent. My parents cut me off. I'm desperate, please. I stared at that message for a long time. Thought about responding with something cruel. Thought about explaining exactly how little I cared about her problems. Thought about detailing all the ways she'd destroyed her own life through her choices. Instead, I just blocked the number. 2 days later, another text from a different number. It's Jason. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you, but I need help. I'm homeless and can't find work. Mom and Dad won't answer my calls. You're my brother. Please. I blocked that number too. Beth noticed me being distant that evening. We were at her apartment watching a movie when she paused it and turned to face me. Everything okay? My brother and ex-wife are having a rough time. They've been reaching out asking for help. What did you tell them? Nothing. Blocked their numbers. Beth nodded thoughtfully. You don't feel bad about that? Should I? No, I just wanted to make sure you were okay with your choice. I am. They made their decisions. I made mine. Now they get to live with the consequences. She kissed me. Good. You deserve better than people who treat you like an ATM. 1 year after the divorce, I got a call from Dad. His tone told me something was wrong before he even spoke. Jason's in jail. What happened? Arrested for check fraud. Wrote bad checks at 3 different stores trying to buy stuff he couldn't afford. They caught him at the 3rd one. Is he asking for bail money? Yes, I told him no. Good. Dad sighed heavily. Your mother's struggling with this. She wants to help him, but knows she shouldn't. Then let her struggle. Maybe she'll finally understand that helping him means letting him face reality. She's asking if you'd be willing to talk to him. Not help him, just talk. No. I understand. I told her you'd probably say that. But she wanted me to ask. Tell her I hope Jason figures his life out. But that conversation doesn't involve me anymore. Jason spent 30 days in county jail for the fraud charges. Got out on probation with community service requirements. According to updates from Dad, he was working at a fast food place trying to make rent on a room he was sharing with 2 other guys. Amanda moved back in with her parents, who'd finally agreed to help with their granddaughter. Heard through mutual acquaintances that she was working part-time at a dental office and barely making ends meet. Neither of them ever got their fairy tale ending. No magical redemption, no dramatic reconciliation. Just 2 people who made terrible choices and got to live with natural consequences. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Got orders for a new duty station in Germany. Better position, better pay, chance to see Europe. Beth agreed to come with me as my girlfriend. Maybe more depending on how things developed. Signed a lease on a furnished apartment in Stuttgart. Started German lessons online. Planned trips to Prague, Amsterdam, Barcelona. Built a life that had nothing to do with the people who'd betrayed me. The night before I flew out, my parents took me to dinner. Just the 3 of us at a quiet Italian place where we could actually talk. I'm proud of you, Dad said during dessert. You handled this whole situation with more grace than most people could have managed. I just did what needed to be done. No, Mom said firmly. You did what was right. You set boundaries, maintained your dignity, and built a new life. That takes real strength. Jason asks about you sometimes, Dad added. Wants to know if you're doing okay. What do you tell him? The truth. That you're doing great and he should focus on fixing his own life instead of worrying about yours. I nodded. That's about right. We finished dinner and said our goodbyes in the parking lot. Mom cried. Dad tried not to. I promised to call regularly and visit when I could. Driving away from that restaurant, I realized something important. I'd spent my whole life being the responsible one, the reliable brother, the son who had his life together. And for years, that had meant being taken for granted, while Jason got all the attention and support. But now I was free. Free from family obligations I'd never signed up for. Free from a marriage built on lies. Free from people who valued me only for what I could provide them. Jason had wanted what I had. My wife, my life, my stability. So I'd let him have it. Let him deal with single parenthood and poverty and consequences. Let him figure out what it actually meant to be responsible. And me? I got to start over. New country, new relationship, new opportunities. Built on my own merit instead of family connections or obligations. Some people might call that cold, unforgiving, harsh. I call it justice. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.